We have not and continue to not have conversations with the President of the United States regarding pardons. Pardons have not been discussed, and pardons are not on the table. With regard to the issue of a president pardoning himself, there's a big academic discussion going on right now, an academic debate. You've got Professor Tribe arguing one point, you got Professor Turley arguing another point, and while it makes for interesting academic discussions, let me tell you what the legal team is not doing. We're not researching the issue because the issue of pardons is not on the table. There's nothing to pardon from.
Well, that, of course, is President Trump's attorney, Jay Sekulow, strongly denying those reports that President Trump has actually considered the possibility of pardoning himself and others amid the widening Russia probe. But, you know, it may have been the president himself who planted the seed somewhat for this brouhaha. He tweeted yesterday, quote, "While all agree the U.S. president has the complete power to pardon, why think of that when only crime so far is leaks against us, fake news?" So, can he pardon himself or can he? Some of the biggest legal minds in the country disagree, and we have two of those guys with us now, David Schwartz, Robert Schalk, both defense attorneys and former prosecutors. David, let me start with you.
Yes.
Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution says that it grants reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. I mean, what does that sound like to you?
I think it's pretty clear that the president, under the Constitution, has broad powers to pardon, and that includes pardoning himself. Now, I agree with the attorney. There's nothing to pardon himself from at the moment because there are no allegations against him at the moment. So he does have broad power to pardon, and the Constitution does not say he can't pardon himself.
So you think if indeed there was anything, and I'm not saying there will be something, but if there is something, he has the right to pardon himself?
The remedy is impeachment against the president, not criminal act.
Wow. Robert?
Disagree. This is our biggest fear as lawyers. It's like the constitutional hypothetical that we used to see in class all those years ago. If you read Article 2, Section 2, you may grant, and if you look at the word grant, upon to another is what many constitutional lawyers are saying, that you can grant it to another person, not to yourself. Additionally, they're also looking at the origin of the word pardon, which dates back to Latin, which is to donate. You cannot donate unto oneself. So they're going to start getting into the where did this word come from? That's how far this constitutional question is going. At the end of the day, I don't think he's going to need to do it, and I agree with David that impeachment is the answer, but I don't think he can.
Well, now you know why Jay says that, it's an academic discussion. But when you say impeachment is the answer, you mean in case there's some
correct, in case there is
type of, in case there is something. But what about the courts? This has never been tested. Obviously, of course, never been done.
Never been tested, and certainly, if it does come about, and that's a big if, a very big if, this will go up to the Supreme Court, obviously, if it happens. But this is all hypothetical, and I don't believe it's ever going to happen.
And does he have the power to pardon someone before they are charged?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
He's allowed to do it so long as the criminal act or the alleged criminal act has been committed. It's not for future crimes.
Right.
However, we do want to remind everybody that the pardon is only for federal crimes. It does not prohibit prosecution at the state level. So you're only taking away one aspect of a prosecution. You're not taking away the state aspect.
So let's say New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman or something gets some type of case. I mean, that wouldn't be pardonable under the Constitution?
Yes, Governor Cuomo could pardon that case. So governors could pardon the state cases. The president can't pardon his own case under that set of circumstances.
Okay, well, speaking of New York, Senator Charles Schumer, he had some sharp words about any possibility if the president would consider this. Let's listen to what he said.
If he fired Mueller or pardoned himself or someone close to him under investigation, it would be one of the greatest breaking of rule of law, of traditional democratic norms, of what our democracy is about. I think it would cause a cataclysm in Washington. I cannot imagine our Republican colleagues, including Ryan and Mitch McConnell, just standing by if he were to do either of those things. So I would strongly advise him not to.
Robert, what about that?
I think part of what potentially this academic debate with his attorneys and with President Trump tweeting this out is, I think it's a political smokescreen, personally. I think that Trump's team is putting this out there to Mueller, to the American people, like, even if there is anything here, I have the authority to pardon, and I will use it if I have to.
He sure does, and he's saying that. I'm not sure it's a smokescreen, but I think in the minds of the administration, this has been a witch hunt at this point. And what better way to stop this witch hunt than say, you know what? I'm just going to pardon everybody. Let's get on to the next thing.
So this is like throwing down the gauntlet in a way, you think?
Absolutely. President Trump believes that Mueller is overstepping his bounds during his investigation, looking into his tax returns, looking into real estate deals that were done. They're claiming that were done with potentially people with Russian ties from years ago. He thinks it's too overreaching. And to respond to him is to say, go ahead, dig. I don't care because I have the ability to pardon.
But that would cause such an immense outrage and controversy, wouldn't it?
There would be a lot of outrage, but at some point you have to get on with the work of the presidency. You can't get involved with all this craziness all the time. So what better way to do that than to just issue a pardon for everybody and to move on?
Let me go back to that point that you can issue a pardon. Can you do it before there's any crime charge?
No.
That's the point.
Oh, yes.
Can you clarify that?
Yeah. You could do it before a crime is charged if there's an investigation, but you don't need a charge for it, as opposed to some sort of future crime that may take place. You can't pardon that.
So finally, we're breaking tonight. Congressman Al Green of Texas, he's introducing a legislation that would prevent, if it's passed, the president from pardoning himself. He's got this bill in the House. Robert, you're shaking your head. There's Al Green, not the singer. Do you think this legislation will pass?
No, I hope we don't even have to get that far. I agree with David to a certain point. There needs to come a time that we as a country move on from this discussion where presidents are talking about pardoning themselves and moving on with an agenda, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it.
So many problems in the world. We have to start tackling them and stop getting caught up with this.
Well, the investigation is ongoing, and we'll see indeed if the president at any point is able to use the power of the Constitution that is deemed upon him by our founding fathers, whether or not you agree or not. David or Robert, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Arthel?